Hey, good evening.
Nice to see you.
Good evening. Thank you guys for staying so late with us. Obviously, long day here on the House floor. It's a little over past midnight, but an important day for Florida families. We led off the day with the press conference on fatherlessness. Representative Altman presented his bill on fatherlessness, which is a historic bill, really taking a major step towards tackling the epidemic that is facing our children, and that is an absent father and all the bad things that happen to children when they don't have a present father or present male role model in their life. I think the work that was done by Representative Altman and Representative Alexander was fantastic and will truly help lift up children across the state. And then, of course, we had the pro-life bill protecting babies at the 15-month mark, which will go a long way in protecting life and lifting up our families. It also contained items protecting babies after birth, providing resources to young mothers, particularly mothers who might be addicted to drugs or opioids, and how to protect their children. With that, I'll take your questions.
Any thoughts on some of the stories you heard on the floor? Were any of them moving to you in any way, some of the stories you heard?
Of course, all the stories are moving. I think that, anytime you're going to talk about life, right, those conversations are going to be deeply personal. Every single one of us knows a mother. Every single one of us was a child. So on both sides, the stories are going to be impactful. What is striking to me, though, is the stories about protecting life and protecting babies, protecting young mothers. People are going to grow up and live a life they would never have lived because they had the opportunity to live. And I think that is a truly human story, and those are the ones that capture me.
But isn't turning the subject, making the point, being about a belief, and so you're imposing one's belief onto others in this context?
Which belief are you referring to?
About when life begins.
That's a great question. The question is, are you imposing your belief on others because you're saying when life begins? Let me flip that a second.
Okay.
When would it be okay to decide that the odds are just too great to be wrong? Right? When can we say that it's been too long that a young woman has been pregnant, that a baby is 3 months old, 15 weeks, 3 months? Think about that. All of you agree session is a long time, it's 60 days. Add another month, that's 3 months. That is the individual life that we are trying to protect in this bill. But if that's not acceptable, if someone's going to argue that 15 weeks is too soon, then when is it appropriate to protect a life? Is it 18 weeks? Is it 20 weeks? Is it right before birth? When does it become okay to defend the child? And the reality is, many of our friends in the press corps don't ask that question to the individuals who oppose this bill. And I would welcome to see the answers to that question. And what we did today was to say, at the 3-month mark, we're going to protect the child. I think that is a noble thing. I think Representative Grawl did an amazing job presenting that bill and all the reasons why it was important. And I was proud to be here today to support it, and we will continue to support life in the Florida House.
Speaker, this seems like an opportunity for the Republican Party across the country and also in Florida now that Roe v. Wade is being reviewed at the Supreme Court. Are these two bills linked, like the child welfare bill and the abortion bill? And what is this political and policy message that Republicans are putting forward to voters with these two bills?
The message is that we support children, we support mothers, we support families. You were here last year when we did a press conference outside about extending maternal health care, particularly targeted to the minority communities, because we saw the health care outcomes for moms who are minorities was worse. So we stood outside and we talked about, for the first time since 1976, we were going to extend the health care from 2 months to 12 months because we thought the outcomes would come. That included a $300 million additional investment in maternal health care. Today you saw us on the steps of the Capitol talking about dads and the role that dads play in their child's lives and how vital that is to the success of a child. And that we were willing to commit $70 million to make sure we were helping community programs lift up fathers, engage them in the lives of their kids, because we know for a fact that if that happens, that those children are more likely to be successful. You saw a bill today to protect babies as they are in the womb at 15 weeks. You saw parts of that bill that are going to help mothers, whether they're addicted to drugs or struggling with maternal health care, with caring for their child, with decreasing the infant mortality rates that are particularly bad with drug-addicted moms. there's a story to tell there. And the story is that we care about families. We care about the mom. We care about the dad. We care about the baby. We care about them before they're born. We care about them after they're born.
And a quick follow-up to that, some of your Democratic colleagues have made the argument that because there's not as good of access to health care for Black and brown women in Florida, that this bill actually has some institutional racism and sexism in it, because Black and brown mothers will be disproportionately harmed by it. I'm just wondering what your response is to that.
Are we talking about the color of the child?
No, they're talking about the fact that...
Yeah, so the issue here is the child, right? So regardless of the race of the child, we believe that the child's life has value. It doesn't matter to us what sex they are. It doesn't matter to us what race they are. It is protecting the life of the child, and that is going to be consistent.
Two more questions.
Represent-
About the bill that's going to get heard in the House committee tomorrow that would protect parental rights in education. Some people call it the Don't Say Gay bill. On Ben Shapiro, you were interviewed about it, and you mentioned that the bill applies to primary school grades K through 3, which it does, but it also says that they can't encourage, school districts can't encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grades or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. So if it only applies to K through 3, why doesn't the bill say that?
Well, the Department of Education defines primary school as K through 3. What it says in the bill is that after K through 3, it's developmentally or age appropriate. So for example, in 4th grade is when people have health education or sex ed, right? There are going to be things that are going to be developmentally appropriate in 4th grade that weren't developmentally appropriate in 2nd grade. Guys, this isn't hard. This is not a hard concept. Anybody who's been a kid or has had a kid or has been around a kid would think there's certain things you talk to them about when they're little. There's certain things you talk to them about when they get older. And as they get into middle school and high school, those things change. They get more complicated. There's more layers to talk to them about. There's nothing different in this bill. It says that there are certain topics that shouldn't be discussed when somebody is a 1st grader. If a 1st grader walked into school and they started talking about sex education, I think all of the people in this room, I would hope, would agree that's not appropriate for a 6-year-old to learn about. Our bill is very reasonable. To the extent that it's been controversial, it's only because of the misreporting that has happened on the bill.
Representative Grahl made a comment on the floor that seemed to get the folks upset who were watching, basically saying this is a consequence of having sex and that's it. That's
I think the
pretty
people...
much, well, what I'm asking is, though, doesn't that seem to be, first of all, there's no mention of a man there. There's no mention of the man, just the mother. And how do you respond to that?
That's actually not true at all. She said a man and a woman make a choice. She absolutely did mention that.
And how does the rape?
She did mention the man. And the individuals, to answer your question about the individuals up there who decided to disrupt the democratic process, they were going to do that no matter what. The idea that they were somehow reacting to Representative Grahl is ridiculous, and it's also completely and utterly inappropriate to have an outburst like that disrupts the people's business.
But how
Yes.
Laura's last question.
Yeah, on the budget, Democrats were critical that they have a statistic that only 5% or 5.3% of the appropriations projects are going to Democratic members in this budget. What do you say to that, considering they're about a third of the members in the legislature?
Yeah, I didn't see that statistic. We make budget projects based on their merit. They work their way through the process. I think that Chairman Trumbull did an excellent job on the budget, which is why it was wildly bipartisan with 90 plus votes for the state budget. We were proud of his work, proud of all the sub chairs. I think they did an excellent job.
Can you
Thank you.
follow up?